The buzz around artificial intelligence this year has rocked Wall Street, with investors lining up to see how companies will increase their exposure. And AI is a big theme at this year's Barclays Global TMT conference in San Francisco. Yahoo Finance's Shauna Smith sat down with Barclays Managing Director Tim Long to get into what business leaders are most excited about in 2024.
AI does cut across, and they're all in very different end markets, but using AI in different ways. So a few of the companies, Motorola for their camera business and Juniper in their wireless LAN networking business, are really using AI. So they have real life use cases. And then, Dell and Pure Storage and Juniper are busy at work building either, PCs for Dell, servers for Dell, storage, different elements of these large language model networks that we're going to see. So it's really a big driver across the board for these companies.
And Tim, you're a veteran tech analyst here. In terms of the hype that we've seen of AI this year over the last couple of years, have you seen anything like it before?
Yeah, it's pretty unprecedented, and everyone is calling it a hyperscale or cloud 2.0, and it's there's tons of money being invested now, but a lot of the initial money is just going to NVIDIA chips, and we've yet to really see the rest of the build out. It takes a lot of storage and networking and everything else to get real value out of these AI chips that are going out there.
Is it going to be the theme you think that dominates the tech industry at least next year as well?
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it'll shift from from these maybe more towards inference. What's going to happen next? What are the use cases? Are there business models that will support a sustained business here for a lot of these companies? So one of the biggest questions now is, is there going to be a positive NPV to all these investments that are happening? So I think next year will be a lot more about having more use cases that people can point to say, wow, this is a great business model. I want to invest more in this.
Yeah, and that the investments are paying off. Tim, with that in mind, then, who do you think is best positioned at this point?
Yeah, so in my coverage, which is tech hardware, probably the leading AI play would be Arista Networks. Mm-hmm. They make switches and routers that, the networking element of these data centers, and normally that's 10% or so of the spend. In the AI data centers, it's going to be 15 or more. So more networking intensive. They're a real leader in the space, competing with a Cisco and a Juniper. We think they're really well positioned for next year, and the way their model is likely going to work, 2025 is probably an even bigger year as there's some migration of kind of NVIDIA InfiniBand type of networking towards Ethernet, where Arista is going to be really well positioned.
And Tim, another name that I know our audience is very familiar with, and is a favorite among investors, not one of yours though, and that's Apple. You have had a neutral rating on the stock now for quite some time.
Yes.
Why are you a bit bearish?
Yeah, so Apple's a very tricky one. We're in a period now where the fundamentals are not good. They basically lowered guidance maybe 4 quarters in a row. They don't give official guidance, but numbers have come down 4 quarters in a row, and the stock's up 30-40% this year. So it's not always one as a stock that operates in line with fundamentals. And we struggle with the multiple and the valuation on it. I mean, this before 5-6 years ago, this was pretty steadily a mid-teens multiple stock, and then after a 2-year period, it was a 30 multiple stock. I don't know what really changed. So we still see weakness in iPhone 15. We were just in Asia. It sounds like the 16, next year's version, is going to be much of the same, nothing too different in it, which means if we're still in a rough macro environment, could be another year of weakness on the hardware side. And then we always identify services as a great business, but there's some really big risks there. And obviously there's this Google Department of Justice case where there's a very large revenue stream coming in to Apple to be the default browser, and that's potentially at risk now. There's a lot of risks around the App Store being investigated or in about 15 different countries. So a lot of risk to the high multiple part of that business as well.
Going back to what you said about the iPhone 15, not looking at the 16, but 15, from your checks, what does demand look like?
It's fallen. Some of the markets, like China was an important market where Apple was growing double digits in the first half of the year, and then that turned down to double-digit declines the last few months now. So demand is not great. What we saw through COVID for a number of their product lines was just a rapid acceleration of unit growth. So the useful life, if you will, of a phone got shorter, so people were upgrading it more frequently. Now that's passed, and the compares are more difficult. So it does seem like we're still struggling. It's it's a big company, and they have a huge user base, install base. So yeah, we're going to see flat type of iPhones for the next several quarters, we think.